Vasudevaya. Morning. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 24, which is entitled Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 65. Yasyananam makarakundalarcharukarna Rajat kapola sumagam savilasahasam Nityotsavam natatripur drishibi pibantyo Nayo narascha mudita kupita nimescha. Translation. Krishna's face is decorated with ornaments, such as earrings resembling sharks. His ears are beautiful, his cheeks brilliant, and his smiling attractive to everyone. Whoever sees Lord Krishna sees a festival. His face and body are fully satisfying for everyone to see. But the devotees are angry at the Creator for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of their eyes. Purport. As stated by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, text 3, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashid yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatpataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Unless one is qualified to understand Krishna, one cannot appreciate the presence of Krishna on earth. Among the Bhojas, Vrishnis, Antakas, Pandavas, and many other kings intimately related with Krishna, the intimate relationship between Krishna and the inhabitants of Vrindavan is especially to be noted. That relationship is described in this verse by the words Nityotsavam, na tatripur drishibi pibantya. The inhabitants of Vrindavan especially, such as the cowherd boys, the cows, the calves, the gopis, and Krishna's father and mother, were never fully satisfied, although they saw Krishna's beautiful features constantly. Seeing Krishna is described here as Nitya Utsava, a daily festival. The inhabitants of Vrindavan saw Krishna almost every moment, but when Krishna left the village for the pasturing grounds, where he tended the cows and calves, the gopis were very much afflicted because they saw Krishna walking on the sand and thought that Krishna's lotus feet, which they dared not place on their breasts because they thought their breasts not soft enough, were being pierced by broken chips of stone. By even thinking of this, the gopis were affected and they cried at home. These gopis, who were therefore the exalted friends of Krishna, saw Krishna constantly, but because their eyelids disturbed their vision of Krishna, the gopis condemned the Creator, Lord Brahma. Therefore, the beauty of Krishna, especially the beauty of his face, is described here. At the end of the 9th canto, in the 24th chapter, we find a hint of Krishna's beauty. Now we are proceeding to the 10th canto, which is considered Krishna's head. The entire Srimad Bhagavad Purana is the embodiment of Krishna's form, and the 10th canto is his face. This verse gives a hint of how beautiful his face is. Krishna's smiling face, with his cheeks, his lips, the ornaments in his ears, the chewing of betel nuts, all this was minutely observed by the gopis, who thus enjoyed transcendental bliss, so much so that they were never fully satisfied to see Krishna's face, but instead condemned the creator of the body for making eyelids that obstructed their vision. The beauty of Krishna's face was therefore much more appreciated by the gopis than by his friends, the cowherd boys, or even by Yashoda Mata, who was also interested in decorating the face of Krishna. Om Gyantimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinobandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Putitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So beg for the blessings of the assembled devotees. Adi Purush Prabhu asks for your blessings. May our words be aligned with Guru Parampara for the pleasure of Shri Shri Radha Mulidhar, and may all the devotees be benefited by hearing Bhagavatam together. So again, this is Canto 9, Chapter 24, entitled Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 65. Translation again. Krishna's face is decorated with ornaments such as earrings resembling sharks. His ears are beautiful, his cheeks brilliant, and his smiling attractive to everyone. Whoever sees Krishna sees a festival. His face and body are fully satisfying for everyone to see, but the devotees are angry at the Creator for the disturbance caused by the momentary blinking of their eyes. So Prabhupada explains that we're approaching the 10th canto, which is compared to the smiling face of the Lord. And in today's verse, we're getting a hint of that. Prabhupada says a hint. It says Savilasa Hasam, that the Lord has a very enchanting smile. And actually earlier in the Bhagavatam, the smile is also talked about as early as the 2nd canto. And this enchanting smile of the Lord is enchanting in 2 ways. In the 2nd canto, Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami, how does one cleanse the mind? And Sukadeva Goswami, he says, for those who are materially minded, they should see the Lord within the creation, within the material creation. And there's these very nice verses describing that. The rivers are his veins. You know, you ever go up in a plane and look down at the earth and you see rivers? These are like the veins of the Lord. The air is like the breath of the Lord. And he says, the various birds, I like this one, the various birds display the artistic sense of the Lord. And then he also says, his illusory energy, which is hypnotizing all conditioned souls, that is the smile of the Lord. So the smile of the Lord, the enchanting smile, it has these kind of two expressions. Like when you fool somebody, you may smile a little bit, right? So this illusory energy, um, which is fooling all living beings, in a sense, is like the smile of the Lord also. I remember on one April Fool's Day that my wife tried to tell me that, I walked into the home and she said that, um, you're not going to believe this, I got a tattoo. And somehow I wasn't remembering it was April Fool's Day. And she was trying to convince me of it, and, but she was kind of smiling when she was doing it. So I knew she was lying, you know. So just like that, the Lord, this, when you fool someone, you may smile. So it's said in the second canto, the smile of the Lord is the illusory energy. So if you're not surrendered to the Lord, then his smile kind of enchants us under the influence of Maya. But if you're fully surrendered to the Lord, then that smile enchants you under the influence of Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya is another energy of the Lord which enchants us, but it's deepening our attachment to the Lord. It's deepening our union with the Lord. And the other Maya deepens the separation from the Lord. And interestingly, the smile has this power on these two levels, on this both of these levels. So as devotees, we want to allow ourselves to be drawn into that higher energy. I was looking at the earlier verses. Bhima Prabhu spoke so nice the other day, and he was quoting text 62 also, which says, simply by receiving the glories of the Lord through purified transcendental ears, the devotees of the Lord are immediately freed from strong material desires and engagement in fruitive activities. Simply by receiving, just by nicely hearing the glories of the Lord. And we're hearing such a nice description in today's verse as well. But the scriptures are meant to actually draw us in. It's not so much an intellectual grasping, but when the mind, when the consciousness is in the right state, we should feel ourselves being drawn up and into the higher spiritual energy, which is also the scripture. So it's not by our forcing it, not by our will, not by the power of our intellect. It's not by our powers, but it's in a very humble spirit when we hear, when we chant, when we associate with devotees, when we see the deity in a very humble state, then we're being naturally attracted. We're being drawn into something, and we want to allow for that. That's all. It's not so much like getting it done, or with some positive willpower that I have to make it happen, but to get drawn in. I was hearing Prabhupada the other day, and he was saying, God has many names. Vishnu, Rishikesh, Govinda, Madhava. He has so many nice names, but one name is the supreme name of God. And that supreme name of God is Krishna. Because, why is that? Because that very name, that word and that name gives the essence of God's nature. The essence of his nature is that he attracts, he does draw you in naturally. His very nature attracts us. And this is why every living being, if you look very deep in the core of your own heart, there are many things there, but if you go very deep, we all discover what we all have in common is that we have a longing in the heart. We have a longing. We have a very deep desire. Right? This is what a human being is meant to discover, because this is very significant for our understanding of spiritual life. There's that poem by the Sufi poet, Sufi teacher Rumi, right? See if I can remember it, but he says, God sleeps in the rock. God dreams in the plant. God moves in the animal. And God awakens in man. We know that the human being has developed consciousness, and more is possible. God manifests more, comes through more, the human being. So God awakens. When the human being awakens, he starts to question in a different way. He just doesn't want to know about things of this material world. But he questions, why is there this deep longing in my heart? What is that? Where is it leading to? So this is part of what it means to awaken as a human being, to start to question these things, to start to wonder, to start to be amazed by things. We give answers to the questions that we have about the material world, but really we're just pretending to have answers. When there's some discovery about something in this world, we can kind of explain it a little bit, but actually everything is miraculous. Just breathing is miraculous. Just go outside and you look up, the sky, the sun. It's miraculous. And we're meant to question these things and wonder about these things and be amazed. Because this will lead to
Ghanashyam,
yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Shikshashtakam Prabhu recently shared in this class how scientists are now saying that since the universe has been around eternally, they don't have to explain it. That's what they said.
They don't have to explain it anymore because it's been around eternally.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and that, we're speculating about so many things, How can we give some ideas of what's happening, millions of years ago. Just imagine that with our little brains, and we may find some things out, but even those, it's hard to confirm. But really what should be happening when we see the creation is we should be in awe. And that kind of view of things leads to God consciousness. We should be amazed. We should be humbled, right? When you see something spectacular, you see the Himalayan mountains, the Grand Canyon, whatever it may be, we start to feel very humbled, but there's an awe that's there as well. This is a kind of God consciousness. So the human being is meant to, discover these mysteries of life, not to, figure them all out, but to feel the mystery in everything. And in the same way, when we enter our own hearts, we see that there's a longing, there's a deep yearning. Now, why is that longing there? What's causing that longing? This is a very interesting point. We long because Krishna attracts. The name Krishna, the word Krishna means to draw you in, to attract. So because God's nature attracts you, and presently in our present state, we're kind of cut off from that, but there's still a longing in the heart for it. We have to long. The soul has to long for Krishna because Krishna by nature is attractive. So it's actually on the side of Krishna that this is happening, where the human being longs and yearns. It's like if you have a magnet. Prabhupada gives this example of the magnet. If you have a magnet next to an iron file, and you kind of push them together a little close, and immediately they unite, right? And it may look like the iron file is running to the magnet or something like that. Like the iron file is longing for the magnet, but actually it's the nature of the magnet which pulls it in, because it's the magnet that has the attractive power. And then the iron file is helpless. It can't help but get drawn into it and touch it. So in the same way, we all have this very deep longing in the heart. And it's not so much us just reaching out for God, but it's the power of God drawing the living entity in, because that is the nature of God, Krishna. Therefore, Prabhupada says the supreme name of God is Krishna, because he attracts, he draws in. He draws in every living being. He draws in everything. So, but this analogy of the magnet, now what's the problem? If you have two magnets, they don't touch, right? Because the poles, there's a negative force and a positive force, right? But if you have two positive forces, they don't touch. If you have a positive and negative force, they meet, they touch. So what does this mean for us, philosophically? God is the supreme positive. He is the Purusha. He's the controller. He's the creator. If we're imitating God, it's like having another positive force. And if we're imitating God, if we're playing God, we can't understand God. We can't relate with God. We those two forces are repelled rather than attracted. So two magnets, you try to push them together. It's something about the unit. This is a deep point about the universe, how it works. You see, there's a little example with the magnets, but it's the idea of two forces, two energies that cannot connect because they're both positive. Or if you have two negative forces, they also don't meet. If you have two positive forces, they don't meet. But if you have a positive and negative force, then they meet. So what is that? What does it mean to enter that negative force? If we're imitating the positive, we're playing God, right? You think about it, even when you just judge somebody, that's the way of playing God. You feel, when you judge, when you throw out judgment on something or someone, you're putting yourself above. You're the judge. You're the judge. You can see. It's a way of feeling superior. I'm going to control this situation. I'm going to figure this out. We have to use the tools that we have to get things done in life and so forth. But there's a way to live where you're living by the revelation of God within you. And you're not the decider, you're not the doer, you're not the planner and schemer, but you're open to see what is to be done. And with that consciousness, and then you move towards it. You see, it's a very subtle difference. It's not this feeling that I'm the doer, but I'm open and looking for the Lord's guidance here. I'm waiting for the revelation. And then as it's shown to me, I move towards it and respond. Living by revelation, not living by the willful mind. We all try to put our will into each other to get to influence, to induce people, to control people, putting the will into it. And they're doing the same to us, and we're all battling in this way. Right? But a devotee lives differently. It's hard to see it visibly, but they're living in such a way where they're waiting. They're waiting for the guidance, the revelation. And as soon, because they're so available and willing to serve, that as soon as it's revealed, they act. So that waiting, that is the negative pole. That waiting, that humility, that openness to serve the Lord. There's a nice verse. Prabhupada mentions in this purport that just go back to this statement. Why it's difficult to really understand the Lord because we're imitating the Lord. Like atheistic people or others, sometimes you hear this, why don't they believe in God or the spirit or religion? And I often hear this response is that, well, I'm not closed off to it, but I'm waiting for some proof. If proof is given, I'll accept it. But what's not understood is that if you're playing God, you can't know God. If you're in that consciousness that I'm the center, I'm the doer, I'm the thinker, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, then again, those are two positive forces. You won't see, you won't connect to the Lord. So to understand God is not just getting some proof suddenly appears and now I believe it. Now I'll decide to become religious. But when one goes deep into this humility, the service attitude and humility, that is what gives an understanding of God. And that's not easily found in this world. People like that. So it's the playing of God, it's the imitating of God, which blocks the experience of God. And so anyone who's waiting for some proof, waiting for some good evidence that God exists, we're looking in the wrong way. We have to look within our own hearts and see what's preventing that experience, not waiting for some thing to appear in the material world and give me great evidence, and now I'll surrender. We're waiting for God to reveal himself, and he's waiting for us. He's waiting for us to be genuine with the truth, to enter into the reality of our true position. And then it all becomes possible because of the right attitude. So in the purport, Prabhupada says, therefore, out of many thousands, he's quoting from the Gita, that of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. There are different levels of spiritual perfection. And of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. It's very rare to know Krishna, to really know Krishna. And Prabhupada says, unless one is qualified to understand Krishna, one cannot appreciate the presence of Krishna on earth. Unless we're qualified to understand Krishna. So what does it mean to understand Krishna? The Gita says, Bhaktyamam abhijanati, yavan yaschasmi tatvataha. How do you understand Krishna? By a service attitude. Again, it's a shifting of the attitude. It's a shifting of the way we're living. Very humble. Very humble. This service attitude is that negative force that connects with the positive force. This is what it means for that to enter in deeply into that negative force, so that we can. We're coming. We're puffed up. We have a certain vanity and pride in life, and so it has to kind of. We get deflated. We get deflated, and in this way, we're becoming less, not more, at first, because we think we're great. We think things are meant for us. Things revolve around us. So that's a kind of puffed up position. So it has to kind of deflate, and it looks like we're becoming less and less, and therefore the word negative, right? We might not understand what that means, but it's decreasing in a sense. First, we have to decrease from our very high platform, which is not true. We get grounded. In fact, the word humility means earth or the ground. It means to be grounded in reality. So to get very humble. And then from there, because now we're in our true state, because now we're real, then we can know the reality. We can know the ultimate reality. We can know God. We can know Krishna. So when we get very humble, so these verses here describing, the natural attraction of the gopis because of their state of consciousness. and the residents, the inhabitants of Vrindavan. It says, Nityo Savam Na Katripur Rishibi Pibantyo. Because they're so deep in that state of consciousness, they're drinking in, so nicely put here, they're drinking in this eternal festival of Krishna. Krishna is like an eternal festival. Nityotsavam. Prabhupada says he is a daily festival. So the gopis are drinking it in through their eyes. And they're complaining. What are these eyelids for? Who's responsible for making these eyelids? Lord Brahma, the creator. And the gopis are thinking, what a foolish idea to create eyelids. What's the purpose? We know the purpose of our eyes, our blinking eyes. The eyes are very sensitive and delicate, and they have to keep receiving moisture. But this is not the logic of the gopis. They think this is a foolish idea to put eyelids there. So they're challenging Lord Brahma. Now Lord Brahma is said to be made of intelligence. Just like we're made of water, we're made of earth, we have a mind, we have an intelligence, we have an ego. Lord Brahma, he's made of intelligence. And the gopis here, the simple village ladies, they're saying, what a foolish idea. See, this is the logic of a devotee is very different. These eyes are meant to see the Lord, and the fact that it has to be obstructed from time to time. What a foolish idea that this was created by Lord Brahma. That's the purpose of our senses. Why do we have senses? The senses are meant to, in the ultimate state, in the ultimate sense, these senses, we have them. They're powers, actually. The power of hearing, the power of seeing, power of tasting, the power of touching, power of smelling. These are all powers, and they're there ultimately so that we can interact with God. That's what they're there for, in the highest sense. But again, because we want to take that position of God, then we come to another place where we separate ourselves, and then the senses are just used again for gratifying myself. We take it all inward. We take it all into me. We enjoy seeing this, and we enjoy doing that, and touching this, and tasting that. But they're actually meant to relate to the Lord, to interact with the Lord in a joyful way. The gopis, they understand these eyes are meant to see the Lord, and the Lord naturally is attracting that. He's so attractive. The beautiful smile is mentioned here, and his form. So that's the purpose of the senses, to interact with the Lord. And this is a nice little hint, as Prabhupada says, these verses where we're getting very close now to beginning the 10th canto, which is considered to be the smiling face of the Lord. The whole Bhagavatam is the form of the Lord. The first 2 cantos are the 2 feet, and then moving up gradually, coming to the 10th canto, which is the smiling face. And in today's verse, that smiling face is mentioned, and we're seeing the attraction, the natural spontaneous attraction of the inhabitants of Vrindavan in this beautiful verse. And we also have that attraction for Krishna. You can never do away with it. It can get covered, but it can never be gone. Why? Because God is attractive. That's the very nature of his being is to attract. And because there's an eternal relationship with him, we have this longing in our heart. We just have to more and more understand that longing and not misinterpret it. Because if we're in the center, if we're keeping ourselves in the center, when we feel that longing, we'll misunderstand it. And we'll think that I got to get pleasure for me, right? That's how we interpret it. I long for pleasure, for my pleasure. I long for my own satisfaction. That's a misunderstanding of the longing. It's a longing for God. It's a longing for Krishna. And as we start to adjust our attitude, enter into the service attitude, go deeper into humility, into the mercy of the devotees, live in the mercy of the devotees. And then we'll start to see it starts to make more sense that the longing is a yearning to reconnect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, a few minutes left. We'll stop here if there are any thoughts, comments, questions. Hare Krishna.
Ghanashyam Prabhu, we've
Yes,
been
Daddy
drifting,
Prabhu.
we've been drifting more toward the interactive format and asking devotees to stop at about 1:45 because we have to leave at 5 to. We have 3 minutes to say something. I want to see if anybody else has to say anything. But it's kind of interesting to hear the other devotees' voices. And if you tune in and watch the class, you'll see that it seems to me that it's a lot more lively and not reducing everybody to wallpaper. But your class is perfect. I mean, I could listen to you all day, but it's kind of an interesting thing. We're seeing like loving exchanges between devotees, people revealing their hearts in confidence, which is one of the loving exchanges. And if we don't stop the class in time for that, there's no point for that.
Okay, good to know. I'll keep that in mind next time.
Just time, if you like. It's a choice. I mean, we're willing to hear you right to the end if you like.
No,
I had an experience in college. I had a professor, Bruce Ritter, Father Bruce Ritter, Jesuit priest, and the student body president stood up in class. You're talking about how Krishna attracts. I love that analogy with the magnets, And I noticed playing with magnets as a kid, if you have a magnet and you attach it to a piece of metal, that piece of metal also attracts just like a magnet, right? So Father Bruce Ritter was giving class, and this student who was student body president, he stood up and said, you're talking about Jesus, and you're talking about religion, and you're talking about people who surrendered and how they gave their life, and they were crucified, they were stoned to death, they were burnt alive, they were thrown to the lions, and here you are, doing a valid service, being a college professor, but it seems kind of like theoretical, academic, ivory tower. Like, where is your sacrifice? I see your little house you have on our campus, and, it seems kind of cozy and comfortable, but, isn't there a way where we apply this idea of like, not only when we're drawn to God, like you said, then what happens? What do? You just go there and look at him, which is the Vrindavan Leela, which is perfectly. But Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya, they have this going out thing. So this guy, this priest, he came down here to the East Village. He left the campus and he got this little apartment. He started bringing in all these street kids. He was living in a building with all these drug addicts. And I went to one class he gave at a church. And when he spoke and he said, this is what we're doing in God's name, and we're bringing in these kids that are lost and confused. And the people, I saw the collection, the people, just like the magnet and the piece of metal, and that they just started throwing in $10, $20 in the collection. They have this little basket that goes around. Remember, Yogi Bruce should do that class. And he attracted them, because of his sacrifice. And so if we're actually like Maharaj, Ranat Swami, he is giving his every breath, every breath, second to take care of devotees. And the power, the attraction that people have from him is incredible, right? They want to listen to him. They want to assist him. They want to serve him. So we hope that...
Thank you, Adi Pushpago. Yeah, when you really when it's really happening within the person, and they're feeling the inspiration of God within, and we're going to see very real sacrifices. We're going to see a real drawing towards the Lord, doing whatever it takes, taking risks. That's really the proof of it. It's interesting, like you were saying today, nowadays, a lot of people, they want to serve God, and so they go to some school to learn how to like preach, like a preaching school or something. But it's something always seemed very odd to me about that. It's like you have to learn kind of how to do this. It's like you're taking notes, and it seems so a little artificial to me. Not saying that if you have that inclination, those things couldn't be helpful. But then you see also a person with a deep connection to the Lord, really connected to the Lord, and Krishna reveals things within the heart, and he'll show you how to speak, how to preach, what to say. Because if we learn what to say, and then just try to repeat it. It may not work in the situation. It's a kind of memory thing, and we're trying to,
You have to act
use
on
it in that way. It's kind of awkward.
Acharya teaches by example. The only place
Right.
you learn to swim is in the water. You can read a book about swimming, right? The only place you're going to taste is when you go to the restaurant, not just read the menu, but you have dinner.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the active devotee becomes like magnetic, like Krishna. And there has to be some sacrifice there. Prabhupada was in Vrindavan, the sweet, holy, pure place, with the deities, with the devotees, with the sanctified atmosphere. And he came to New York. Oh, I can't bear that. I just can't bear that. It's like, how could he leave there? Because he did that to show that you have to give Krishna consciousness to get Krishna consciousness.
Right. Thank you, Guru. Anyone else have any reflections?
Yeah, we have to go.
Ghanashyam Prabhu, I have a reflection.
Yes.
I really liked your comparison with this energy, your analogy with the energy, with a positive force and a negative force. And if you play God, you can't know God. I really like that one.
Mm.
Play God.
Yeah,
if you try to enjoy or control, you can't not know Krishna.
We have to
Yeah, because many people will say, well, I can't. If you show me God, or if there's some proof, and then I can consider. But that's too intellectual. You see, it's not like that. It's a change in attitude, which reveals the Lord in the heart, and it's a humility. It's a mercy that comes, and mercy can be accepted. The mercy comes to the devotees, and so many places the mercy can come, but we have to be in the right state to receive that mercy, which is a certain acceptance of it in our heart, a certain humility, devotion.
I also like the point how a devotee lives by revelation. And I had a little question in this regard. How do you, and you mentioned how living by revelation means to wait until Krishna reveals his plan. So how to wait properly? How do you know when it's time to act? How do you know when it's time to stay back and meditate and pray, and when it's time to act and what to do? How do you know what Krishna's plan is?
Yeah, we have to sometimes feel within ourselves, and we can feel when there's a willfulness, right? When you want to force something. Mm-hmm. Look at a situation you're in where something maybe has to be done, and there's a way in just trying to push, trying to force, and then there's another attitude, which is realizing that, man, I really don't know if this is best. Let me, if I can, if you're in a situation when you can wait, you can wait in a state of just opening and looking, because you're ready to act, but you want to see what's right and what's best from within. So it's not that you're lazy, you're waiting in a lazy way, or you're passive. You're active, you're alive, you're vigilant, but you want to do what's according to truth, what's according to righteousness, which is according to what God wants. And so to look in that way, it's like, Krishna, I don't know what to do here. And perhaps you have the time to it's not like an immediate decision that has to be made. Krishna, I don't know what to do. So you're in a prayerful state, and you're waiting for that revelation, for that guidance. And as soon as you see it, you'll act on it. And then it may not be what it's meant to be. It's not about like the result of it either. It's about just trying to live according to what's right. So even we may, make a mistake, and it's okay. Then you let that go and learn from it. Immediately detach from the disappointment. We tried our best to kind of wait for the revelation. We tried to do what was right. Maybe on the material level, it doesn't work out as we'd planned, but that's okay. That's a learning experience. Maybe that's meant to be what Krishna is doing through us. You see, don't look for the result as the proof of Krishna's guidance. Just have the attitude of, I want to surrender to what's right. I want to surrender to what is true. I want to surrender to what Krishna wants. Don't look at the result for the proof of that. Now just open your eyes in a humble state, see what the revelation, oh, Krishna, it seems Krishna's showing this. So I'm going to just do it. I'm going to act on it now. And then whatever comes, comes. And the key is when we keep entering in that consciousness, that attitude, we're becoming Krishna conscious. Krishna's becoming pleased again and again. We keep returning to this humble state of mind that's looking towards him rather than towards my own powers. And that's what's most important anyway.
Yeah, Dev Prabhu in the chat box he says that he's saying that Shastra helps us see what Krishna wants. We see through hearing.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for this comment. Very valuable.
Yeah. So much is there in the Shastra. All the principles are there in the Shastra. It's difficult to practically apply them in our lives sometimes. And we don't want to force that either. Like, oh, the Shastra says this, so here I am in this situation. I'm going to push it now and make it happen because the Shastra says this. We still have to wait for the revelation of
and
the
if
Shastra.
It doesn't happen my way, then it means Krishna is not real.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why, the Shastra gives the principles of how we're meant to live, and we have to embody those principles. Because some people can try to force, a statement says this and enforce it on others, and then it's like, hey, it's in the Shastra, it's in the scripture, and push it. And you can see it's still ego. Whenever you want to like preach to somebody and you're upset that they don't take it, what's the upset? It's the upset of my ego. I want take this. It's usually not this, of course we can talk about it as like a compassion. Out of compassion, I'm angry. But really, if we look close, we can see that, we have something and we want to give it and we want the others to take it and they're not taking it. So that's upsetting me. But that's okay. You see, Prabhupada would go everywhere and preach and just be detached. He would just give it. You take it or leave it. In a sense, he would go somewhere and speak. Some people would be inspired. Some wouldn't. Some would argue with him. And he'd move on to the next preaching engagement. It's just constant giving of it. Constant giving. And we want to give it in such a way that's understandable. And we want to work on that so that we can be good instruments. But we don't want to put our will that this must be taken by the other person. Because Krishna doesn't do that. Krishna lets people do with their freedom. Here's the message. Here's the Gita. You can take it. You can not take it. He doesn't force it.
Yeah, that's a perfect answer to my question, because I was thinking Prabhupada didn't wait. He was very active. He wasn't just sitting around and waiting, doing nothing. He was waiting, but he was waiting in the sense that he was detached from the particular outcome, and he would go from the person to the next person to the next person, reaching out to everybody and waiting in the sense of being detached and accepting what Krishna has in store for him according to Krishna's plan. So that's perfect. Thank you, Ghanashyam Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Shikshastika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Very
Krishna.
nice class. I was inspired by your repeated admonitions to humbly accept the revelation of Krishna. And it just reminded me of, like how you try to push. Sometimes I think I'm in control of my preaching and I want to do things my way. But actually, it's Prabhupada's movement. It's Krishna's movement. It's his words, ultimately. So I just remember that Prabhupada used to confront scientists and people like that. And he would very strongly argue, but they would never become offended. He would practically call scientists demons, but they would kind of agree, and they would say, maybe I didn't perform my experiment correctly. And so that's the difference between Prabhupada and, me, because, I always try to assert myself. If I disagree with somebody, it's like an ego thing. Prabhupada had no ego. He's pure devotee. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, Prabhupada, there's no doubt. And so he could be so strong. And it was just out of goodwill, just giving. This is the truth. Take it. And then people would sometimes just walk away, like you said, doubting themselves. The scientists would question, maybe I didn't do this right. Or, Prabhupada talked with everybody, right? Economic, like he would talk to, you can see different conversations with all kinds of people. He had no fear that their department of their area of knowledge was superior to his. He knew his was superior because his was Krishna's. And so he could just speak truth. And if people have the right, if there's a little humility in the heart, then a person will react like that and will think that they would not get offended, but they'll actually take it in the right way.
Even he was not even like giving on his own, like he's so generous. It was Prabhupada. Prabhupada was guided by Lord Chaitanya, who was the most humble. I mean, there's no comparison with Lord Chaitanya's humility. He was sitting in the boot room, and when everybody washed their feet to talk to Prakashananda Saraswati. And he just melted their hearts, That's the way to approach people.
Yeah.
Approach people in the shoe room. Chai. That's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Athena has her hand up.
Hare Krishna, Ghanashyam Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for such a lovely class. I am the camp, but I appreciate listening to the speakers till the very end. And then because of these virtual classes, if the speaker is willing to take questions after the time, it's very wonderful. So like Adi Prusha Prabhu, I could listen to you all day. So thank you. I have a couple of questions, but to start, I've been picking up some of your word choices and like creator and revelation, which interestingly, I feel like is very prevalent in the Abrahamic faiths. It's not so much used in our line, as you can say, our tradition. And I assume that's because you're a chaplain, you have to cater to some of the other religions. And this is an interfaith question. I do have very close Muslim friends, and of course, theology comes up. And they always give praise to the creator. We understand that Krishna is the supreme creator, the primary, and Lord Brahma is the secondary. But it's very interesting because as they speak and you kind of talk a little bit more of our philosophy, some of them, it's like, it sounds like it's Lord Brahma. And my first question is, I'm curious with your experience, because even in your talk, you refer to Krishna as the creator, but then the gopis are mad at the creator, Lord Brahma, for creating these islets. And Islam believes, the soul is breathed into the body, created by Allah. So do you know, or if they're referring to Allah as Krishna, the supreme creator, or Allah as Brahma, this creator of the material universe and this earth that was created?
Yeah, sometimes, you'll see in the Bible, at least, it's mentioned, like you said, it could be a little confusing, because the God that's being talked about or spoken of, you can understand is not the supreme God, even though the same word God is used. For example, there's passages in the Bible were saying that there was like an incident taking place, and it's saying God's involvement in this incident. I don't remember the exact place this is found, but I just remember coming upon it and saying, well, God was not able to defeat this particular army because of the strong shields of the opposing army. They had stronger shields, and so the God was not able to. So what happens is in different scriptures, you'll see that sometimes different gods are being talked about, and we know there are many, many kinds of gods, demigods and so forth. But when we're talking about the supreme God, it's kind of used as if that's the same person, which in actuality, it's not, because there's God and there are gods, and just like if you look at Gnostic Christianity, Gnostic, like we had the word jnana, the word Gnostic is the same, and kind of a Christianity that's focused more on esoteric knowledge. They understood that the creator, they called him the demiurge. This is found in many books, the demiurge, like a demigod. They understood that the creator of the material world was not the supreme Godhead, but a kind of an empowered being who created this material world. So if you look a little deeper at various sources, you'll find a confirmation that often Lord Brahma is being talked about, but it's mistakenly took as Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead or something, when really it's an empowered being who's in charge of the material creation. Like there are gods of war, like when a war would take place, and you see the Old Testament and so forth, and they would invoke a particular god, and the god would help them battle. And this is not God, the supreme God, coming down and doing so, but this is actually a being that's connected, has a link to the material world, and is useful for certain purposes. So it's true then. Sometimes it gets confusing. If you look at deeper sources within Christianity, and I would say Islam as well, you can find those distinctions, they start to be made. Where who actually created, Brahma created the world, he's the secondary creator, according to the Bhagavatam. But obviously the creator of all creators is God himself. So anyway, hope something there was helpful.
Thank you so much. I'm going to let that marinate. I'm curious just in response to that, because what, say, Islam preaches so much is this, again, the monotheistic, also, of course, the Abrahamic is this monotheistic, there is one God. And it's very clear that, no, say Allah is all of this. It's all of this. He doesn't need helpers. Right? He doesn't, we would say Krishna allows these devotees to serve him. Of course, Krishna could do everything, but he allows these devotees to serve him. But I'd be curious how you handle or how you think about passages, again, when there is this, say in the Quran, it's a supreme one, only one God. But
yeah, it was important to emphasize that, and also, in Judaism as well, because many strange gods were being looked to and worshipped. And this is the idea of Judaism too. Judaism started with this very strong point to finally break away from the worship of so many other beings and gods and all that confusion. No, there's one God, one supreme God. And same with Islam, a strong emphasis that there's one supreme, because if you go further back in time, you'll see that there's some confusion here, and there are different beings, the God of this tribe, the God of that tribe, but there's one supreme God. So therefore these religions started off with a strong emphasis on the oneness of God, that he's one supreme being, he's the source of everything, which is all true. But it's kind of like the removal of all of the other demigods, all of the other parts, all of the other information, which is still intact in Vedic culture. We know about these different gods. We know that, so we can allow for that. We know it's a truth, but we also agree that there's just the one supreme source behind everything. And so they kind of threw all that out because of the confusion of the various gods, and the God of these people and the God of that people. It's used again and again in those texts. You'll see it's put in that way. The God of these people, the God of this tribe, versus the God of that tribe. It's like, what's going on? There are all these gods. No, God is one. He is the supreme Lord of all. And so those religions started in that way, and therefore that message still carries through. And a lot of information that gives you the complete picture has kind of been dropped, for the purpose of just emphasizing the essence. But we can see it also leads to some confusion and some fanaticism as well.
Thank you so much. That was a explanation. I was curious, though I was just sent this passage that say, so I'm reading it. All praise is for God, who has never had any offspring, nor does he have a partner in governing the kingdom, nor is he pathetic, needing a protector. I'll reveal him immensely. And here's the point that, it's an argument against Krishna having a lover, say needing to have a wife who governs with him in the spiritual world. And also when Krishna came down, having offspring, things like this. And of course, I can but draw upon, say, I don't say defenses or responses, but I'd just be really curious. These are just some arguments towards why God would never come down, or Krishna wasn't. How do you?
Well, Krishna and the lover and Radharani, all of this can only be revealed by pure devotion and not by argument. So this is too high for such people. It's too high. It's like what they're saying is totally true. They're at the level of God, the supreme creator, almost like Narayan. Or even Narayan, we know, has a consort. But the idea is like, it's just the idea is that the source, he's alone. He's the source of everything. That's a kind of like, conception of God as Ishvara, the supreme controller, the supreme creator. He's not affected by any. And you find words like that, descriptions like that also in the Bhagavatam. So it's a view of God. To get into the intimacy of God and his relationship, it's like you're entering this very intimate, deep inner world of God. And that is God only reveals that to his most confidential devotees who have pure, spontaneous devotion. So it's not surprising that people without any idea of this pure, intimate, spontaneous devotion could never, with their minds, comprehend that such a thing is possible. It looks too mundane. You see, it almost looks like, oh, God has like a girlfriend and he likes this, he doesn't like that. No, God is beyond all likes and dislikes. That's the supreme position of God. But when you go deeper and deeper into the heart of God, then he has his preferences, he has his intimate likes, he has his devotees that he associates and exchanges with. So we can't expect that to be revealed again through just the process of knowledge or trying to understand something. That's revealed through to the devotee who longs for spontaneous service and makes that the highest goal in their life, and then starts to enter into that consciousness by the mercy of God. Then all these things come out and are revealed, and one sees the beauty of it all, that it is the supreme beauty of God that's being manifested before me. And the gopis, what is their consciousness? It's too high for these people.
And would you say these are revelations given by God? So God is almost saying this himself, but then are you saying the reason why he's revealing this, I'm not saying it's not true, it's that you're saying who he's preaching to or revealing this truth to the audience, they're not ready for it. So because they could point that this is the word of God, and God is saying himself, he does not need a partner, he does not have any offspring. So we can't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true on that level. And for those who can catch, those who by the mercy of a pure devotee can start to catch the beauty of Vrindavan and what it means and start to long for it within their heart, then they're going to catch something else. They're going to also catch this other intimate side of God which exists. So God puts it's all out there. All the different levels of God are out there, and we connect to the level that we're on. We connect, even though we know about Krishna and the inhabitants of Vrindavan, in one sense, it's very theoretical for me. I can see there's beauty in it, and it's attractive, but it's not that I have the revelation of it, but it's out there and it's available, and certain devotees do, and that moving in that direction is what we want to do. So all the things are put out there by the Lord, and then according to our state, we like this, we don't like that, we're not ready for this. And then everyone has their arguments. So best not to get too involved in all those different positions and arguments, and see the attraction of your heart and develop it and just move towards it. And then some will understand, some won't. That's okay. We're returning to our supreme constitutional position in our relationship with God. And that could vary.
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly, Ghanashyam Prabhu is wonderful handling of the questions, and Athena has very intelligent questions. I was thinking it's actually Krishna's mercy that this entry level of understanding Krishna is there for us. If I was told about the gopis when I was joining, I was forget it, not for me. So, and Bhima Prabhu has his hand raised. Bhima Prabhu, unmute yourself, and this will be the final comment.
Jai.
Haribol Ghanashyam, what a wonderful, sweet class. Like I said in the chat, I sometimes classes are just to sit silently and to listen to, and that's how I felt with your class. I didn't mind that I didn't have I always got something to say, but anyways, I didn't mind this time at all.
I felt the same thing when you were speaking the other day. I felt the same thing. I was like, just let this continue, let this flow.
It's nice to let a car wreck. When you see a car wreck, you have to look. Anyways, very quickly for Athena, I hope she's still on. Two things, Ghanashyam, you quoted from Rumi. Yes, Rumi.
Yes.
Rumi's Vaishnavi is a love story to Krishna.
True.
Rumi is a Sufi, and of course, Indian Hindu Bhakti claims Rumi as well, but Sufism claims Rumi, and he wrote in his Vaishnavi very intimate, endearing poems to Krishna and back. And as well in the Abrahamic religions, Song of Solomon is a very beatific outtake on the intimacy of the lover and the beloved, complete with descriptions of the beloved, including the eyes and the softness of the skin and the sweetness of the body, the scent. So these can be found. Radhanath Maharaj, and I'll end with this. Radhanath Maharaj once said, and I believe he was quoting from somewhere else, is that amongst mystics, there is no disagreement. So though amongst the devotional aspects of any religion, that's what you're supposed to seek for, Athena, is the nectar within the religion that you're being presented with. Find the nectar, and it will be the self-same nectar that you get from Krishna consciousness, and then fan that flame in that person. So let's talk positively about the fact that there's a lover and a beloved. They'll agree to that. Allah, there are names of Allah. That means the beloved. So just concentrate on that, and then you'll win their heart. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Very nice, Prabhu. Thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Bhima Prabhu.
Okay, thank
Hare
you, Ghanashyam
Krishna.
Prabhu. Thanks everyone for contributing to this class by listening attentively and by making comments, reflections. Thank you, Ghanashyam Prabhu. It's a joy. It's such a spiritual charge for the day to hear you glorifying Krishna. Thank you.
Joy to be with all of you. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Have a wonderful day.